Hello boys and girls and little squirrels, it's Lee here, and today's video is going to be about buying your very first. I have been playing violin for about 16 years now. I started when I was 7, when I was just a little squirrel. The school I went to in elementary was a magnet school, and then for middle school I auditioned to a performing arts school, same thing with high school, and then for college, bachelor's in music. I was lucky enough to be going to school for most of my career right before that whole cut the arts, cut the being lit at school foundation became a thing. So I know a lot of you probably don't have arts in your schools or the same quality of an arts program at your school anymore, and yeah, that's what these videos are going to be about. It's going to be helping you live your best life even if you don't have arts in your school anymore. First thing is first, what's my gripe with buying instruments online? You wouldn't buy a car online, you wouldn't buy a house online. It's the same thing with the violin. You need to taste it, feel it, smell it, lick it. You need to love it. You need to be the violin. You can't tell if it plays well. You can't tell if they just took a really good picture, just photoshopped it, and that's not what the instrument's gonna look like, which is a problem with a lot of things you buy online anyways. You know, it's really, really tempting, especially with Amazon Prime now, because you can buy a baby online now. It's like, you know, this is a proper investment here. No labor, no none of that. Think of your violin as an investment, not so much as I'm buying my kids some foolishness that they're gonna play around with for a couple of weeks. Like, violins are just like any other physical piece of art. If you take good care of it, it will literally last multiple lifetimes. So think of it more as an investment, not I'm buying some crap. So it brings us to our next point. What is the price point then? How much money am I supposed to be spending on this? In my experience, I would say do not go under $150. There is no threshold magic price of, yeah, once you spend this amount, it's automatic, like the most amazing, delicious thing you've ever played. But try to stay above or at least around the $150 price range. In my experience with most of my students, anyone that's ever bought a violin, I'm like, yo, this is actually pretty good. Open it up, let's take a look at it, and I asked them how much they paid for it. It was around like the $150 price mark. So you want to be spending at least $150 on a violin. The reason why is because anything under that, they're gonna cut major shortcuts. Like, everything on the violin is held together by some kind of like adhesive or a lot of pressure. A lot of things are held together by pressure. The strings, the bridge, all these parts are held together by everything having the appropriate pressure to keep everything in contact so it doesn't collapse. So that means some dude was like literally sitting in a lonely little acorn shed like for hours, like chipping away at wood, reworking it, redoing his math equations to make sure that everything fits nice and snug and fits perfectly. When you cut corners, you literally have a factory in China just stamping out bridges, stamping out generic pieces and putting it together, and that doesn't work. Primarily because a violin is made out of wood and every piece of wood is not the same, so you cannot just generically print out the pieces and put it together. It doesn't work that way. It's not electric keyboard. If it was electric keyboard, it's fine. You do the same thing, it's electric. So at least $150. And I understand not everyone has the money, is in that in the right financial situation for that. Maybe your parents are really strict and they're just like, no, we don't really waste money on endeavors outside of textbooks and pencils. Like, you know, you're gonna have to figure that out on your own, kid. Look into renting. Renting is a lot more feasible if you just can't do it, and most places, I can't think of any place that would be selling a violin that wouldn't have a rental program. Most places are going to have a pretty good rental program like set up for you. And the way the rental program works, it matches the price of the instrument. So if you're looking at a violin, it should be about $15 to $20 a month to rent it. And then if you're looking at a viola, cello, or a bass, it's going to be probably upwards of maybe $45 to $50 for a bass, just because the rental price matches the actual price of the instrument if you were to buy it. So still a lot more feasible than dropping $3 grand on a bass. Where am I supposed to buy my violin then? Buy your violin, you ready? At a violin shop. At a violin shop. Yeah. Don't buy your violin at Guitar Center because they specialize in guitars. That's why it's called Guitar Center. And the reason I'm emphasizing on that so much is because even if you do get a good model, I'm not saying that it would be bad. I'm sure there's people like, well, I gotta change my life. I'm not saying that. But the biggest gripe I have with it is if you have an issue with it and you bring it to Guitar Center, the luthier they're gonna have on hand which is their instrument crafter, like their on-hand like person that looks at the instrument, shaves it down, fixes the tension on your guitar and things like that. If you have any issues or whatever, they specialize in guitars. Yes, they might have a good general knowledge of how to approach a violin just because they are both stringed instruments, but there are certain intricacies that they're probably gonna that I know good and darn well they're gonna mess up because they don't know, and I've literally had that experience before with a student. So go to a violin shop where that's all they do day in and day out, night in and night out. That's all they're working on is violins and orchestral stringed instruments. So they know exactly what they're doing without even, beating any sweat. So in short, don't buy your violin at Music Discount, Guitar Center, any of those. Go find a violin shop. Which brings us to our last piece of stuff that we need to look at. So why am I supposed to trust a place just because it has violin in the name? Doesn't mean they're not going to scam me and try to finesse me out of my dollars. Like, how do I know that this is really going to be a sexy investment just because I bought it from a place with violin in the name? Well, I got some steps for you. First and foremost, when you go in the shop, just be very honest with them. Listen, I have about $200 that I can spend on an instrument with tax included. What can you do for me today? And then they should have something for you. Most likely they do. If they don't, if they're more higher end, they're just like,
the agony.
If they're like that, then ask them about a rental program. I can't think of a violin shop that I've ever come into contact with that does not have a rental program. And again, as I stated before, like the rental prices just match the instrument, but they should definitely have a rental program. But once you go through that, and they're, everything's good, they do have an instrument within that price range, and everything's good to go, this is what you do. When they're showing you the instrument, take the time to really get familiar with it. Smell the aromas, feel it, love it, ask it how its life's been, ask him its dreams, its aspirations, and you really get to know the instrument. But the most important thing to look at that I spend the most time scrutinizing when I'm meeting with a student for the first time is this little guy right here, the bridge. And that's that tan piece of wood right there that's holding everything up. You see how it's thicker at the base and then it's a little bit skinnier as you go up the bridge? That's what you're looking for. It should be like this. It should not be like this. If it's like this, chances are it's a generic piece of wood and for sure it was not properly crafted, and that's going to be a healthy hot mess. So you want to make sure that that is properly crafted. Secondly, you want to look in the F-holes. These swirlies right here on the instrument are called F-holes. I'm not sure how well you guys can see it, but you should be able to see like a little stick that is standing up inside the violin. That is called the SoundPost. And the SoundPost should be a nice, solid, clean-cut piece of wood that's just sticking up in the middle. I've seen before where it's like frayed away at the edges and it was like a really poorly constructed violin. And that also needs to be healthy because the SoundPost, if that collapsed, it throws off the sound. It literally throws off the balance of the actual instrument. So that needs to be a nice, sturdy, clean piece of fitting, proper wood standing in the middle of the instrument. The next thing that you can look for with just general knowledge is the paint job. Please do not be fooled by the paint job. Just because it looks like it came from 1465 and the Pilgrims probably played it does not mean it's a good quality instrument. When people are making cheap instruments, they know what they're doing. They know if they make it look expensive, people are gonna go, wow, I really got a bargain for my buck. And you're not. Where people usually mess up is right in here for some reason. Right in this crevice where the neck meets the body of the instrument is where I see unfinished paint jobs. Also right where the body tapers out here is also where I'll see like mismatchy paint jobs on the instrument when it's a very, very cheap violin. Also very important, the wood for the fingerboard, which is this black piece that you're seeing right here, is naturally supposed to be a very dark wood. When they're allowing you to look at the instrument, see if you like it and stuff, look under. Tilt it so you can look under there. And if the wood under there is patchy, like you can see that it's lighter under the black paint, or there's literally just like a white patch under there, there's a dead giveaway that the instrument's a hot mess and someone just put it together, like painted it black, looks legitimate, we're fine, moving on. So you really want to check for that as well. That's going to be a dead giveaway that they're trying to, sell you short just because you're within a price budget, because there are fraudulent places out there. So that's something else to look for. Last but not least, and it might seem pretty random, just, while they're showing it to you, ask them if you can hold the case and, just, literally just hold the case and see how it feels in your hand. If the case feels really flimsy and not very sturdy, it's most likely a crap instrument. And it just goes with the territory. I've noticed that. Like the cheaper, crappier violins have very flimsy feeling cases. The case should feel sturdy. It should have some weight to it, like it's decent quality. That's what protects the violin. That's what, covers it so it's not naked, getting hit and bumped and stuff like that. So you want it to feel sturdy. So that's not an end-all be-all. The other things I talked about is more of an end-all be-all, because if the paint job is patchy, if the bridge is not properly formed, and if the fingerboard was painted black, that's a big, big no-no. The case, they may just put they throw it in instruments in cheaper cases. That's not a huge but if the other things I've discussed so far are things that you've noticed, in addition to the case feeling flimsy and not sturdy, it's a definite no-no. You don't want the instrument. So just a couple of things to look out for when you do get into that shop or you do go to that store, and you want to make sure you are getting a bang for your buck since you're investing a little bit more money. Guys, I hope it was really helpful. I hope you guys go out and buy really, really good beginner instruments. Start your musical journey, live your best lives, your best musical lives. You have an amazing time. If anybody thinks I should have commented on anything, has any questions, any pros out there that watch this and disagree or would like to add anything, please leave your comments down below. Like, love, subscribe, and share, and I will see you guys in the next one.